Welcome to Financial Focus, brought to you by GulfCoast Financial Services founder and CEO, John Kuykendall. John and his team of financial, legal, and tax professionals have been providing North Florida savers and investors sound, comprehensive financial guidance for over 30 years, helping you to achieve important life and planning goals. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more Financial Focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net.
And welcome into the program. This is Financial Focus, brought to you by the best of the best in financial services, as named by the readers of the Lake City Reporter, 7 years and running, celebrating their 30th year serving North Central Florida savers and investors, those that are proactive in planning, retirement-minded. The team from GulfCoast Financial Services, founder and CEO, John Kuykendall, here with us as always, providing the perspective and guidance on what we need to be doing with our money in order to achieve our important financial goals. And John, on today's program, going to be tackling one of probably the most common questions when it comes to financial planning, which is, how much do I really need to retire?
Yeah, that's right, Peter. Everyone wants to know that. They don't understand how much they need. And I think we've got some really good information. I was, in going through the notes for today's show, I was really impressed with what we've got. I think we're going to be able to answer a lot of questions for people. But it is a big change for people when all of a sudden they don't have that monthly check or weekly check coming in. And then they realize that they are their own boss and they're paying themselves. And so how much do I pay myself? How much am I going to need to live and not have to go back to work or go live with the kids?
Yeah, it's a big shift when we walk away from punching the clock and earning the paycheck to having to live off of our investments and assets. But John, I think that the way we are trained to, or maybe just most commonly think about answering this question, is with a lump sum. And it's that $1 million nest egg. And once we hit $1 million, we believe that we may have enough to be ready for retirement. But you've talked about on this program, it's not really all about the lump sum. In fact, the lump sum, no matter how large or small, may not truly give us a great indication on if we are financially prepared for retirement.
Well, that's right, Peter. I don't think that, you can say that it's a lump sum. Everybody's needs are different. And so some people may need $3 million. Some people may need $500,000. It just depends on when they're retiring and how much they're having to take out of their assets and how we're structured. How diversified are we? And how much do we really need to live on? And so everybody's number is different. I always love that commercial, the insurance company that would have the guy on the park bench, and they would say, "What's your number?"
Right.
Everybody's number's different.
Yeah, that the commercial with the big green numbers floating over people's heads. I remember that one. But I could have $10 million. If I am withdrawing $1 million a year as my cash flow, might not be enough to last. Or I could have 500,000 if my income need is covered from Social Security and pensions, and I'm really not reliant on the portfolio generating additional income. That could be completely over and above and discretionary.
That's right. It all depends on the individual situation. And that's why, we stress here the income plan so much, is that the income plan gives us the ability to see how much you need, how you're going to spend your money, and kind of work out a number that we feel like you can live on. And at the same time, have the kind of retirement that you want to have. We don't want to be so stingy with our money that we don't have a good retirement. But on the other hand, we can't be so frivolous with it that we run out of money before we die.
Well, John, before we get into what goes into the income plan, how to formulate and think about the income planning process, one other way that I think people think about being ready to retire is age-based. When I hit 62, when I hit 65, when I hit full retirement age 67, that's going to be when I am ready to retire. But again, kind of just an arbitrary number may not truly indicate if we are financially prepared for retirement.
Well, that's right. I mean, we can retire whenever we want to retire if we're ready. And the key is getting ready to retire. And some people don't want to retire; they want to continue to work, and that's great as long as your health is there and as long as you're physically able. I read the other day where there was an 80-something-year-old financial advisor that got shot up north. I mean, he was still working, but he liked it. He liked what he was doing. So you really don't know. There's not an age-based number that you can say. Some people want to retire at 62. A lot of people back in the 2000s wanted to retire at 55. That was their number, but very few of them were able to because what happened to the market in 2000. So it all depends.
Well, particularly if we do have ambitions to retire early, we're going to need to do some very specific and careful planning for how to go about doing that, because that's just not the way that the retirement system has been set up and designed for the majority of Americans. So if that is you, ladies and gentlemen, you want to retire at 55 or before traditional retirement age or 59 and a half, you definitely need to have specific conversations about those goals and intentions. And you are welcome to have those conversations with John and the team there at GulfCoast Financial Services. Just give them a call, 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. Or if you are on a more traditional timeline, of course, they're willing to have those conversations with you as well. But the important part is having a plan specifically designed to work to help you achieve your goals. So no matter when that goal is or how much is going to go into planning for your ideal retirement, they can help make sure that you are on track through that planning process. Give them a call, 386-755-9018, 755-9018. So John, you have talked often about and described the income planning process, but it is more of a reverse engineering process. And I would say more about math than the traditional kind of financial projections that are focused on selecting the right funds and generating a rate of return.
Well, that's right, Peter. The first thing we have to figure out is what your income gap is. Very few people, they want to retire. They think they're ready to retire, but they really they haven't sat down and decided how much money they really need. And so what we have to do is come up with the amount of money that we know that we're going to need each month to meet our bills, kind of come up with that zero-based budgeting that Reagan talked about in the 80s, so that we know how much each month we're going to need. And then we look at how much predictable, sustainable income I've got coming in. And the difference between those two numbers is our income gap. We've got to figure out then how we're going to get that income.
John, you mentioned that 4-letter word in the financial world, budget. None of us like to think about the budget. It's almost like one of those forgotten, lost arts. I know that my mom was very careful about balancing the checkbook and staying within a budget. But in today's world of being able to have it before we can afford it, put things on credit, and then the ease of technology where everything's just linked to our bank account, budgeting sort of seems to be a forgotten art form, but pretty essential when we're thinking about walking away from our income earning years.
Well, while you're working, like you said, with credit cards and all the stuff that we have today available to us and the ability to buy stuff and put it on time, when you retire, you're not going to be doing that. You need to have a budget that you've sat down and worked out on how much my electricity bill is going to be, my car insurance, my health insurance, all the things that I have to pay. And, it's as you've told me before, it's two columns, the haves and the have-nots. I need to figure out what I need, the need and need not. And then I can figure out what my wants are, and I can add those in as I decide, how my budget works. I may not be able to afford that new crisscross boat that I always wanted right away. I may have to wait. Depends on what the stock market's doing. I'd hate to think that somebody would retire today and pay cash for a $50,000 ticket item. Or as you know, I just saw the other day that bass boats are going for almost $100,000. That's a lot of chunk to take out of one's retirement account and then expect the retirement account to work for them for the next 25 or 30 years.
Another tale of modern society, though, is the confusion between needs and wants. A lot of times we may want that thing, but we sort of consider it a need and a necessity, and the ease and convenience of being able to put it on credit and put it on payments, that can really backfire, helping the budget for retirement and getting into income planning for retirement. If we can eliminate payments, eliminate debts, that's going to be beneficial. And John, this is not something that's set it and forget it either. We're going to measure twice and cut once on the outset, but we're going to continue to reevaluate and remeasure as time goes on, because the budget's going to change on us.
Well, the budget will change mainly because of inflation. So what I have today is not what I'm going to need tomorrow. And so we have to, the numbers for June just came out, 9.1% inflation, largest amount in the past 44 years. So, we're going to have higher taxes and higher inflation. It's going to be a rough time for retirement. And we're going to have to, as you said, measure twice and cut once, because we don't want to leave gaps in our retirement process. And so we need to make sure that we've included everything that we can in our budget. And, taxes are going to play a big part in retirement. They're certainly going up. We know that. And how we take our money out of our accounts is going to play a big part. So we need to really sit down and do this income plan, come up with a way to figure out how much we need, how long we're going to live, for 25, 30 years, and then come up with an income plan that's going to work, taking into consideration, making sure that we're taking money out of our accounts right, so that we pay less taxes, and also making sure that we've budgeted for inflation.
When you talk about measure twice and cut once, carpentry comes to mind, kind of another building analogy. If you're talking about stability in structure, that's the foundation, right? You've got to have a firm foundation in place. And so in the financial world, John, there's a whole spectrum from taking risk for potential reward to having certainty and guarantees. And those options do exist. When building the income foundation, I know that the opportunity for growth is attractive and what we have often been trained to shoot for during our working years, but in replacing the income, replacing the paycheck, really we want to solidify that foundation as much as possible.
Well, that's right, Peter. We have to, the foundation that we built, which is really our savings and our retirement accounts that we built up. That's the foundation. We want to make sure that that foundation is going to be strong all through retirement. If it's not, then certainly we're not going to have the kind of retirement we wanted, and as we know, sequence of returns with the market down, we're in this, could be considered a recession. We're certainly, in a correction, that now is not a great time to be pulling money out of accounts. And as we pull money out of our accounts, the more we have to rely on our investment accounts, that growth bucket, the shorter period of time it's going to be able to withhold. So that's why we talk about guaranteed income, pensions, Social Security, annuities that are giving us lifetime income. Those things are what build our, which are part of the foundation that keep us going, because we know that money's coming in every month. And then we supplement it with the retirement, the growth bucket. I got a great story, and we just talked to a client this week, and we were able to turn on his lifetime income so that he wouldn't have to touch his growth bucket during this correction. So it just makes his growth bucket last longer, because we know we've got enough guaranteed coming in, a lifetime income coming in, that he's able to make his obligations and pay his bills.
So
It's a
having
great
that
feeling.
foundation in place again, so important.
Yeah.
And therefore, John, if we do see difficult, challenging times in the economy, market downturns, we still know that we've got enough that we are covering our essential expenses. Now, you've talked about having both paychecks and play checks in retirement. The play checks are kind of the extra, the discretionary, the things that we envision retirement to be about above and beyond just subsistence and covering bills and expenses. But maybe there is room for, conversation about different approaches or how much we want to be able to count and rely on in between those essentials and then where lifestyle expenses actually fall.
Well, that's true. And that's what the income plan does. When we do the income plan, we sit down and we talk about dreams and expectations during retirement. And if you're planning a trip around the world, then we're going to try to put that in there and budget it and show it, see how it's going to last. And we'll put a date on it so that we know that by this date, we're going to fund this amount. It's certainly, as we said, as Tom Heglia says, and I say all the time, tell my clients this, and I'm a living, breathing document to this. There are 3 phases to retirement, the go-go, the slow go, and the no-go. And so while we're in the go-go, we want to be able to do the things that we're physically able to do to make our retirement worthwhile. When we get into the slow go, we still want to be able to go, but we're just not going to have to spend as much money out of our retirement. And in the end, we're going to be in the no-go where we're still going to have income or expenses because we have the house and the mortgage and or the utilities and all that stuff, the taxes and insurance, but we're not going to be going out and taking long trips like we used to. So all those have to be put into the income plan so that we can give you the best retirement you can dream of. And I think, a good example about the number thing that you showed me was if we look at that 4% rule and figure out that if I'm going to have to if I need $5,000 a month or $60,000 a year, and I'm going to be living for 25 years, I'm going to need $1.5 million.
Yeah.
$60,000 a year doesn't seem like a lot of money, but over 25 years, it's a lot of money.
It adds up. It adds up. And we've got to have a careful plan for that. And then, John, we've got to factor in some variables that are going to impact us over time as well. I mean, you already mentioned inflation. We're seeing that as a big time factor. Impacts retirees a little bit more than it impacts workers and those that are still earning a paycheck. Taxation, RMDs, the passing of a spouse, all of those factors worked into that written retirement income plan on the outset of retirement, at the very beginning, or wherever we are at in that process, so that we can better plan for that financial future and that financial outcome that we desire.
Yeah, I mean, what a lot of people don't realize is that when we lose a spouse, we can lose as much as 40% of our income. And so we have to budget that into the income plan. I mean, it's a big number. There's a lot of things that happen during retirement that we have to be ready for. Increased inflation, but even if we get inflation under control, we are going to have higher taxes. Taxes are going up. We know that Medicare costs are going up. I mean, actually, that I read in the AARP magazine that because the reason we're at the 172 number for Part B, that's the lowest number this year, was because of a $20 increase in an Alzheimer drug that was really in a trial, but Medicare went ahead and budgeted it in there as if they were going to have to expend it. So every time as we get old and there are more people on Medicare, the more money we spend out, the more our Part B is going to go up. So we're not going to be able to keep up with inflation if you're just on Medicare. So we're going to have to, our Social Security, because that Social Security increase is going to be eaten up by the Medicare increase. So, it's a catch-22, Peter. We got to be ready. We have to plan.
All the factors that you discuss, that you deal with on a daily basis in the planning process, John, actually make working for the paycheck seem like the easy part of our financial progress. But I know that so many in North Central Florida, savers, investors, proactive planners have felt a greater sense of confidence through the planning process and through the services that are offered there as part of the Gulf Coast Financial Services planning experience. Getting that financial focused written retirement income plan goes so far in those efforts. So again, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to sit down for a detailed, thorough forensic financial review, a comprehensive analysis, a retirement planning strategy session to get that written retirement income plan, pick up the phone and give Gulf Coast Financial Services a call, 386-755-9018. Again, 755-9018, 386-755-9018. Similar planning reviews, plan design can easily go upwards of $1,000 to several thousands of dollars. John and his team make this available to listeners to the program, to viewers of the podcast. No cost, no obligation for that conversation, that initial review and retirement planning strategy session. Pick up the phone to take advantage. Give a call to Gulf Coast Financial Services, 386-755-9018. John, always a pleasure, always bringing up important topics of conversation and facing these difficult challenges and issues head on Financial Focus.
Well, thank you, Peter. These are difficult times. They are also difficult challenges. But on one lighter note, I wanted to tell you before we left, Financial Services Company of the Year 8 times in a row. We just got notified last week. So 8 years in a row, best financial services company in Lake City, Florida.
Congratulations. Another feather in the cap there at Gulf Coast Financial Services and your company, John, where you've been serving savers and investors for more than 30 years. And of course, experience in the financial world, even before that on the banking side of things. So you've seen different circumstances and environments and helped your clients through those times. Planning equals confidence and quality of life, especially in retirement, ladies and gentlemen. Give them a call. 8 years and running now, named best of the best in financial services by the readers of the Lake City Reporter. And you can reach them for their custom specific guidance and assistance, 386-755-9018. Congratulations, John.
Thank you, Peter. Have a good week.
Take care.
Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more Financial Focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only, without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature, not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. John Kuykendall is registered with and securities are offered through Kovac Securities, Inc., member FINRA SIPC, found online at www.kovacsecurities.com. Advisory services are offered through Gulf Coast Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor in Florida. Gulf Coast Financial Services, Inc. is not affiliated with Kovac Securities, Inc. or Kovac Advisors, Inc. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All investing involves risk. Investment decisions should be based on your own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Due to various factors, including changing market conditions and/or applicable laws, the content may no longer be reflective of current opinions or positions.